Alright, game design critique. Right. There's Hugh, and the game should be... There we go. There's the game. Let me make sure I do screen share with you, Hugh, so you can see it. Can you see the game now?
No, right now it's just a big... What?
That's just the...
Oh, no, here, yeah, I got it.
Yeah, I just have the...
Good.
The console. Right.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, hey, everyone. Let me know if you can hear how Hugh's volume is. If that needs to get adjusted.
I'm going to adjust on my end, too, if need be.
I think it should be good. Like, I'm looking at OBS, and it looks like our volume levels are just about the same. And then there is also some Brigador music coming through. I want to make sure everyone hears it, because it's freaking sweet.
Some good stuff.
Alright, so everyone says he's fine. Right, so this is Brigador. This is kind of the very beginning. So now, Hugh is with Stellar Jockeys.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are based in in Seattle and in Champaign, Illinois.
Yes.
And there's 4 of you on the team. It's right.
Yep. Yeah, 2 programmers, and then myself and an art guy, my brother Jack.
Right. And this game has been in development for 5.
Too long.
5 years.
Yes, I mean a lot of that was back end stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's been that long just to go from starting to getting a shipped product.
Right. Yeah, and you guys you wrote your own engine and everything.
Yes, C++.
C++. Yep. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. Oh, so let me know if the game volume is too loud. For me, it's just fine. Okay, so pilot, I can.
Pilot's currently aren't.
Pilot is
yet,
always
obviously.
Right. So this is.
Yeah, that's just sort of perfunctory right now.
Okay, so pilot. So now we can choose our vehicle. So anyway, you guys, I don't know if the stream is fast enough, but so we have a Loyalist Tank Tinker, Loyalist Tank 01, Spacer Tank 04. I love that. I don't know if you guys are gonna keep this, but like, it doesn't start off with any lore. It just like kind of goes straight into this right now, which I think is really cool. And
we're gonna have a couple of small things, but it's very much just like cut straight to the action. I mean, that's one of the things we quote a lot is the Doom rule, which is that if you start Doom and just hammer enter, you'll get into the game in about half a second. And we wanted to make sure that that's still something we can follow along on ours as well. This is a game, not big plots or any major like. This is not an RPG. This is
right. I mean, it always makes me think of. There's this one YouTuber. He made a video about Tony Hawk Pro Skater, and he was just showing how in the N64 version you all start it up and then just like boom, 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 and it's straight into the game. And he's like, the best part of the game is the whole game. Like there's no fluff. So someone suggested Mech 06, so we were gonna go with that one, which I do love. All right, so weapons. Let's go with the microwave projection, Mr. Crispy.
Okay, so if you're going to pick that one for your secondary...
Yep. Oh yeah, so we have our primary and secondary weapons. So secondary, what should we go with?
You should go with the disruption laser.
Disruption
second to last.
Laser. Ah, I see.
Yeah.
Laser.
So one of the things in our game, we're still spending all the time tuning this, but the different weapons, there's 3 damage types. There's damage against shield, damage against hull, and damage against environment. So Mr. Crispy doesn't do anything against shield or hull, or shield or environment, but if you get unshielded targets, they're just annihilated.
I see.
So that's a kind of weapon that you need to pair that either with an EMP, or you need to pair it with a different weapon that specializes in dropping shields, so that you get that kind of 1-2 punch.
Right. I was going to ask if you guys were going to explain it, but then I realized up here in the right, it basically has
that's new to this build. You didn't have that.
I see.
Earlier. Yeah.
All right, yeah, penetration. So this is really great at damage against hull. Oh, I see. Not so great against environment, but great penetration. And then this secondary has... It also isn't great for environment, right? But
yeah, no, lasers in general aren't good against the environment.
But it's better against shield. I see.
Yeah. So this will be interesting.
Right. Let's see. Okay, special and smoke projector, EMP cannon. I'm gonna go with active camouflage.
Sure. Does your mouse have a middle mouse button?
It does. Yes.
Okay. So that's the current binding for the middle mouse is the binding for using the special. So
I see.
Yeah. And since you're in a mech, spacebar will stomp, and shift will crouch.
Okay. This is mission, and it's
just do main run. Yeah.
Let's do main run.
Always do that one.
And contract, accept. Also, you guys, let me know, people in the chat, let me know if you guys can hear the sound from the game too, because I know. Let's just take a second to talk about the soundtrack. It's who's the guy doing it? The soundtrack for Brigador.
It's Matt Pusty, who he performs as makeup and vanity set.
Yeah, it like my game was my go-to soundtrack for a long time was Dust Force. OST. I would just listen to that thing on repeat all day, and that's been dethroned. So now Brigador.
I'm glad to hear it.
And it's running fantastic. It's like you got the frame rate counter. It's 60, well, like 50s, high 50s. So.
Yeah, we haven't had the chance to do. I mean, like obviously the serious optimization kind of stuff comes in at the end. So.
Right. All right, districts. Let's go with RAM. Yeah. Let's pick one maybe that I.
Well, no, so restricted. When you start a run, it just randomly places you. The idea being that when you take the contract, you just happen to be somewhere.
I see.
And then after that, you get the opportunity to pick what district to go to after that.
Oh man, okay, wow.
Okay, yeah. So you're in the loop.
Yeah. So this is let's just talk about the. Is there a time limit? Like
no.
Okay.
No.
So just about the art style. You are the artist, or?
No, so I'm the designer and also like the hitman on stuff. Like I handle the business and all the stuff that no one wants to do. My brother Jack, who goes as Gaussworks, he literally everything you see in the game, outside of a few of the effects, were made by him. So over the course of 2 years, he produced the entire environment, everything.
Right, and it's not pixel art, like it's
no, it's kind of like that weird in-between space. Yeah, so everything's made as 3D models and then baked down into 2D sprites. So all the vehicles have 64 rotations, and most environment elements we build them in 4 rotations, but depending upon what it is, so like for the city block elements, for example, we try to design those so that each rotation can create a very different building based on how you're looking at it.
Right. Oh, I see. Okay. And yeah, I love it's like a really fresh take on it. On like it feels retro, but also in like a really modern way, which is not something you see very often. My one question though I had just about the movement. So like right now, my mouse is moving the head part of this mech, but it has its own forward line, and it's always. Its forward is always W. Like even when I'm using like A to rotate to turn left. You guys can see that light, and then D to turn the other way, and then but when I hit W, I'm going forward.
Yes. Always. So it's relative versus absolute control schemes.
Yeah.
So most games, most twin sticks, people are used to W or up on the stick moves you up towards the top of the screen. We decided this is just normally called tank controls.
Oh, I see.
Grim Fandango, for example, was sort of infamous for using this scheme. It's harder to get used to.
It is,
especially if you haven't really played anything like this. We find that it's usually about 45 minutes to an hour before players start to get comfortable.
Okay.
Galaxy actually has a similar issue. Galaxy also uses tank controls to handle the ship, which is why I think a lot of people had trouble getting into it at first. But we actually tested it with the control scheme where it's based on the where W moves up.
Yeah.
And what we found is that while it was much easier to get used to, the skill cap was lower. It was just harder to have a very fine sense of control for your vehicle.
Oh, I see.
I think we're just going to stick with not having it in the game.
Do you guys think it might be an option? Like, if I suppose then people would just not learn this one.
Exactly, because that's one of those things where it's like, if you provide that as an option, then people are probably going to go straight to that and then never switch back. And that's the problem. Is like if you do that, then you're sort of hamstringing your players unless you kind of force them to switch out after a few hours or something.
I love that, and also everything is destructible. All the environment.
Yeah, that's our main selling point, and that was kind of the boon of the way that we built the game, is that literally everything outside of the exit gates and the bounding walls, everything else in the game is destructible.
Okay, let's go do some damage.
Yeah. So with your mech, that stomp will do some serious damage to units up close. But both of your two main weapons aren't really kitted for doing environment damage, but they should do very good job against units. And for the record, understand that we're still a couple months out from even launching early access, so temp effects, etc., etc. So the usual disclaimer.
Right. Stomp. Hey, Arnold Venier. We're hanging out with Hugh Monahan from Stellar Jockeys and checking out his game, Brigador. Still quite early. Well,
we're releasing early access October 20th.
October 20th.
Yeah,
and you guys will be at PAX Prime.
Yes. Yeah, we're part of the mega booth.
Yeah. All right. So at this point, I can see that there are some of those up in my right-hand corner. I can see that there are like places I want to get to, or things to be destroyed.
So the skull indicates. So there's 3 ways to get set up to finish a level. One is to just annihilate the local garrison of standard units, which is just the skull. The skull and crossbones is to kill the 2 captains, which you'll see because they're specially marked out. And then the third objective is to destroy the 4 defensive batteries, which are these enormous cannons. So do any one of those 3, and you'll get out.
The stomp does do a tremendous amount of damage.
Yeah. So, but yeah.
Actually, you know what? Let me. Oh, oops. The
did you kill him?
having escape be the quit button always trips me up.
Yeah, it's going to get changed eventually. It's just, when you're in development and continually going in and out of the game.
You guys also have the reason why I do that was I just wanted to raise the volume on the game a little bit higher. That should be good. Oops. But yeah. Anyway, I also love your console, which is like super sweet. It's really nice, the autocomplete. All right, let's actually. I really like the mic, so I'm gonna stick with that. I'm gonna try another weapon.
Do a cannon and machine gun. That's the easiest to get used to. Do the Abbott.
Abbott.
Yeah, it's the top one. And then for your secondary, do the. I would do the Duchess.
The
or the oh no, okay, for your secondary, do the caseless then.
Caseless, okay. Special. Let's I'll go with random this time. Main run, contract accepted.
Okay. So yeah, so you're on the same level. With the EMP, or with using any specials, if you press and hold the middle mouse button, then it'll give you a secondary targeting reticle, and that'll show you, and then release to toss it. Ability uses they're infinite use, so they just operate on a cooldown.
Right.
The EMP will disable all units in the radius, and it disables their shields as well. So.
I love that there's so much detail, and yet everything is so small.
Yes, there's a lot. There are a lot of assets.
And it's I really love the art style.
Thank you.
So then the idea is like I can choose you told me I had the 3 ways of completing each level. And I'm kind of curious, just like from a design standpoint, how did that come about? Like, were you guys like how has this game changed over the course of was what the game is now kind of what you guys always had in mind?
No, not at all.
Not at all,
the original design was you weren't piloting these size mechs. You were on these giant walking oil rigs, and it was more of like a strategy game.
Oh, I see.
And it was actually originally top down, and then over time we switched to an isometric perspective, and we moved away from it being a strategy kind of tactics game to more of this action twin stick.
Right.
I mean, it's not a twin stick shooter, but it's like that's the closest cognate. And that's the thing, like with the way the aiming system works. I mean, that was probably the longest thing getting prototyped, because we had the idea for it, but then tweaking, like, okay, how exactly does mouse distance from your vehicle affect the declination? And originally we didn't have the extension camera, so it used to just be that your vehicle was always locked to the center of the screen, and you can actually toggle that by hitting Control, which can be useful in certain situations, and some people prefer playing that way at certain times. But yeah, the combat definitely trended more action oriented over time.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so that vehicle you're fighting right now, that guy is one of the when you destroy him, he'll pop a bunch of shielding for you. So that'll be a big recharge for you.
Yeah, I'm still getting used to the control scheme, but it is a lot. It is getting a little easier. I think I like that you guys have the 2 lights there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice. I think I destroyed it. Ooh,
yep.
This guy's like
yeah. And, so I mean, take some pot shots at the buildings. Also, you're running low on ammo.
Oh,
so when you see those little icons, hit R, and you can salvage. You can salvage the ammo. When it turns white, that means you're in range.
Oh, I see. Got it.
I think you ran over it.
Oh man. The game is very punishing. It is not easy.
No, we give 0 fucks. if I may be allowed to say that.
Yeah.
So I mean, one of the main intents with the game is that, you know, we're not doing RPG or roguelite. We're not doing any of this kind of leveling up over time. It's the stuff that you get at the beginning of the game is, I mean, that's what you get. You're not going to get any upgrades. You're not going to get any, you know, you're just going to get actually worse over time as you take more damage. So it's just a matter of conserving your ammo enough and staying enough intact to make it through the game.
And my ammo is, oh, I see, yeah. My main is pretty low.
I think you're actually completely out on your main.
And you said to take some shots at these?
Oh yeah, just or like just run up and stomp the building and just see what happens.
Oh yeah, I guess the great thing with this is that you have your melee weapon. Reminds me of you've seen Edge of Tomorrow?
Yes.
Yeah, you know how they
quite enjoy that movie.
They say like, yeah, why does this woman have this like giant knife and a giant sword? And it's never explained in the movie, but in the comic, I think it said something like they often ran out of ammo on the battlefield.
It's so all you need is kill is the book.
So it was always good to have a really solid melee weapon as backup. And this is like kind of this mech is reminding me of that.
Yeah. So yeah, with the game itself, what we wanted was just something that hard. You know, it's a difficult learning curve. I mean, we wanted to make it so that if you that there was room to grow from a play standpoint. Because like one of the biggest frustrations I think for me with a lot of games is when you're
so you're saying
is when you're sort of artificially trying to think of the right word, I guess limited in terms of
when it's not generous, right? It's like when there's just some arbitrary cap for the sake of
or just when it's a matter of like grinding something out. I want games to be where like it is defined by my ability to play the game, not my patience for grinding through the same level over and over again until I hit the requisite level or whatever MacGuffin in order to be able to play the game as it's supposed to be played.
There are just two questions. Bonkin asks, any plans for multiplayer?
No.
No
one of the... I mean, it's one of the things that we would love to, and I think this is something that would actually lend itself really well.
Yeah.
But you have to understand, like, this is our first commercial project with the team, and we built the engine. So it'd be different if we were using Unreal or Unity. Even then we probably still wouldn't launch with multiplayer, because, it adds an order of magnitude of complexity to kind of handle those things.
People who have multiplayer games, that's all their QA stuff. It's just the multiplayer stuff.
Frankly, bad multiplayer is worse than no multiplayer.
Right.
So.
Germ Game says, Garland of Bloom, they say it looks a lot like Fallout.
Yes. That's a side effect of the way that we create the art assets. So when they were making Fallout, the original Fallout, it's the same style of art pipeline, also the same as the original StarCraft, in that we create 3D models and then they get baked down to 2D.
I see.
So the thing is, thank you, Mike. The thing about doing that style of art is that when it's a model that's baked down to a sprite, the topology and the topology of the model doesn't matter. You're not worrying about how many verts or polys on the model. And so that has two effects. One is that you can get these really greebly, like super detailed models, and it costs the same from a sprite budget standpoint.
Oh, that's interesting. I never thought of that.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
That's why. A lot of people kind of criticized StarCraft 2 for having this sort of Tonka truck aesthetic compared to StarCraft 1. And I think part of that is just their overall trend in art over the last decade. But part of it is also that when you switch to 3D, there are specific changes that come into play there, and part of that is that the topology of the sprite, or of the model in this case, actually genuinely matters. So that's going to affect how you build out the models. Whereas for us, so the other thing is that we wouldn't have been able to make this game if it had been in 3D. At least not in the way that we did. Because, for example, a lot of these models were able to produce, Jack, the artist, he was able to produce a lot of these vehicles in less than a day. Which, to create, finished art assets in that timetable is sort of insane. But because of that, the combination of most of these don't actually have any animations. So like the tanks, the treads animate, but that's its own separate thing, and a lot of the tanks use the same treads. The mech legs animate, but otherwise everything is just handled through rotations, and that's no additional work from a production standpoint. You build the model and then you print it out in all the rotations that you need. So as a result, we were able to produce a prodigious number of assets in a comparatively short amount of time, and with only one guy at the helm.
Right. Yeah. No, that's actually kind of a good thing, where it's like you guys have able to pick out something that looks really great, but is super, like it does not easy to do, but very much like within your production power. All right, let's try this again. So this time I've gone with.
You've got double high arc already. This is going to be interesting.
Double high arc.
Yeah. So.
My normal weapon. Oh, I see.
The A-Grav you're piloting has two main mounts, so it's the two biggest mounts currently available.
Right.
And you have the same gun on both mounts, which is an artillery round that has a high arc. So if you move your cursor close to your vehicle, instead of aiming down, you're still aiming up. It's gonna have the same flight time. So the advantage is you can shoot over stuff, and it's a really powerful gun. The disadvantage is that if someone gets up close to you, all you can do is belly dive on them. If you hit spacebar on the A-Grav, you'll do this little pound.
Right. Wow. I love that. First of all, I love that it's strafes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So A-Gravs operate on a different control scheme.
No, that's so awesome that you guys like. I mean, of course it does, right? And I love that you guys. That really, it's like you can tell there's just so much attention paid to detail, not just with the art style, but with little stuff like this. All right, let's actually try to do something. Well, we were doing something, but I mean actual.
So your best, it's an incendiary.
Oh my God! What? Wow.
So you can just carpet areas, and you'll do a good job of kind of annihilating units as they get through, but if they get close, you're in trouble. And the other problem is that high arc artillery, because we conserve momentum, and so as you're moving, that gets transferred into projectile weapons.
Oh, I see.
So it's actually very hard to move and shoot with high arc weapons, which is just kind of one of the balancing elements of it.
Right.
And you're already in trouble.
Hold on, I got it. And now with AI and everything, how do you guys how is that all? What?
Yeah, you only had 5 hit points left.
Oh man, where was hit point? I think I missed that.
It's at the top left. So yeah, green is your hull and blue is your shielding. So you can see it right below your vehicle right now, and that readout will be
the top left incendiary.
Try the rocket launcher, and then for your secondary, go with the railgun. That's a really fun one.
Go with okay. I'll try the rocket launcher and go with the railgun. So rocket launcher and railgun.
At the very bottom.
At the very bottom. This is special main run contract. Okay, accept.
Right, so this map is unfinished.
Are all these going to be available for the player at the very beginning?
No. So one of the big things that we're talking through right now is what's the best way to tutorialize the game for the player. And one of the big things is that we basically need to chaperone the player through specific builds that are easy to learn. So, for example, cannons and machine guns tend to be the easiest.
Sorry, you're chaperoning players on...
Yes.
I was trying to run away. Damn, this game is so insanely hard, which is great. I guess I can just start... Like,
yeah, give you the same kit so you can zip through real fast.
Right.
So something I might recommend is, until you're a real gunslinger, so weapons have noise, right?
Right.
So, and your vehicle has a noise level. So as you're moving through, you're going to be attracting more and more attention. So instead of kind of running straight into the fray, you want to try and dispatch units that you come across as quickly as possible. I mean, because the vehicle you have right now is very heavy from a weapons side, and not great from an armor standpoint. So for you, just get in there and take out these targets, so you don't get overwhelmed. And also make sure you take out those trucks that you're looking at right now, because when you take those guys out, that'll give you a big bonus to your shielding.
Oh, I see. These trucks.
Yeah, so those little blue orbs will appear. They're shield pickups from destroying enemies. You can't repair your hull damage, but you can repair shielding.
Right.
Also, you take additional damage from side hits and rear hits, but the enemy does as well.
So from a design standpoint, like, is a lot of what you're doing combination both level design as well as just balancing out?
Yeah, that's my job.
And what kind of goes into level designing for this? I'm so used to thinking of level design from a first-person game standpoint. That for me, it's like, okay, this is a hallway for you to go to, but this is obviously very different.
Yes, I mean, the fact that you can Kool-Aid man through anything and everything in the game, it becomes a question of there's a couple things. One is thinking of everything in terms of cost. Right. Time cost and energy cost to move places. So those high concrete walls, especially for smaller vehicles, or if you've got lasers equipped, are either very time intensive to break through, or it's going to cost you a lot of ammo if you need to get out, if you need to break through it quickly. Right. And so from that, you kind of build out. It's setting up different size spaces. I mean, because this also goes part and parcel with the unit spawns as well. And we don't want to have unit spawns be completely fixed, like the same unit, same spot every time. Because what we want to avoid is players just getting the sort of rote memorization for how to go through. It's also why we randomize where you start on a level. So that they're, like, even though the levels themselves are static, what ammo depots are where gets randomized. The units themselves, we have strength lists, so depending on how far you've progressed in a run, we'll have different pools of units that get picked from, and there's some variation there, but for the most part, there's a reasonable consistency to those.
Now, these levels are not randomly generated, like procedurally generated?
No,
they're all designed.
Yes, I build the levels. Jack did a couple of them, but for the most part, I build these. And it's about 50 to 80 hours per level.
Wow, okay.
So, that's a lot of time, but at the same time, compared to, for most people, or most games, authoring a level of this detail is much more than 80 hours. So,
and you guys have a sort of a level editor that allows you
so we use a
this
program called Tiled. Make sure you grab that ammo, you're out on the rocket.
Yeah, I'm a lot better at sort of recognizing that. And the little people, I think David Kilmer was asking, they do hurt you.
So the guys in the yellow, that thing will blow up, by the way. So you want to be outside the lines when you... So the road lines indicate the explosive radius.
Ah, okay.
But, yeah, Kilmer, we wouldn't have been able to make this game without Tiled. Anyway, I totally lost my train of thought.
You were talking about... Okay. You say you were using tile to make the levels, and then it was like 80 hours per level.
Yeah, sorry, I blanked on where it was.
Come on! Okay, I got some.
So yeah, remember, I mean, the cooldown on your EMP is fairly short, so it plays a major part in
what does EMP do?
Moment combat. The EMP, so it stops all units in their tracks, and if they have shields active, it temporarily disables them. Oh, that's what I was going to say. The tiny people. So the guys in the yellow, the guys in the yellow rain slicks, those are civilians. They pose no threat to you.
Okay.
And then there's also the standard.
Should not have been killing them.
Well, it depends. I mean, what are you?
I thought they were attacking me, but I think
So there's infantry as well, and if you look closely, you can see they're differentiated by the lights that they have. So civilians have this kind of swinging gait as they run, whereas the infantry it's much narrower, and they have a pretty outsized gun. Yeah, I mean, from a gameplay standpoint, there's definitely sort of a cowboy element to the game, where, run in guns blazing. But unless either you're in a really, really heavy mech and you know what you're doing, or you're really, really good, it's very hard to just kind of run into the thick of it and just make things happen. Kilmer, so the quick short story of the game is that you play as a Brigador, which is the city that you're in is currently in major upheaval because the autocrat has died under questionable circumstances, and you have 3 different factions vying for control of the city, 3 different armies, and then on top of that you have a corporation from the outside that's coming in and bribing anyone they can to just sabotage the ground effort. So those giant cannons are orbital defense batteries. So what they want is for the titular Brigadors to take out the orbital defenses so that they can land their own military in there, and also just kind of create chaos before they themselves get out in exchange for massive payouts. So you're basically selling out your kin and your planet if you're playing as a loyalist or a Corvid. So you're basically playing a bastard in this game.
You're just in it for yourself, for the money.
Yeah. Yep. So it's a cash grab. And it's just a question of how you want to go about doing it. And the reason why we have the 3 different objectives is to try and enfranchise different means of going about it, or different play styles. Because it is very possible, especially if you're using silent running or the active camo, you can make it through an entire level by destroying very few units, by just destroying either the defensive batteries or taking out the captains. So there's a lot of, originally we had wanted to have more of a stealth component that was viable to the game, but that fell victim to scope.
I'm not so sure if orthographic stealth works. Just because you see so much,
Right, but that's what allows you to do it, though, is that you have knowledge that other units don't, so you're able to play that to your advantage. I mean, Metal Gear Solid, in those early games, that's their bread and butter, right?
Right.
It's just taking advantage of we don't have sort of pre-authored patrol zones or anything like that. We have units that begin with either they start in a active search pattern, or they spawn stationary. That was kind of the direction we were interested in, but action is, I mean, like just going in and blowing shit up. I mean, that's what the game's good at, and that's kind of inevitably the focus of it.
Oh, hey, and sort of like you said with the camouflage and sort of choosing the right vehicle type and the weapon type, you can play a stealthy approach
to a limited extent.
To a limited extent, right?
Yeah. So because you have the weapon noise, or you fell victim to the gas station. To a limited extent, you know, because the weapons themselves have firing and impact noise. We don't actually currently have that stat shown in the game, but we're going to get that fixed in a bit. But
I'm just really bad at games, but I'm having a lot of fun.
Here's the thing: like this is par for the course, right? I mean, I can count on one hand the number of play tests from like people who are new to the game where they managed to beat a level. Right. So this is not unusual.
Hey, your brother's in the chat. Gaussworks.
Yeah, he popped in. If anyone has any questions for him,
we are huge fan of the art style. Yeah, you know, I don't really see too many games that have this. This is like there are sort of old games that had this style, right? Like Fallout.
Oh yeah, I mean this was like sort of cutting edge for a while.
Yeah, and you sort of see like with sort of 2D pixel art, like lots of that, but not so much this style.
Yeah, I mean, so the heyday of pre-rendered, of like baked down from 3D models, isometric was mid-90s. I mean, you've got Diablo 1 and 2, you've got Fallout, Crusader, No Remorse, StarCraft. I mean, there's a ton of games that were very successful from an art standpoint, to not even look at from a gameplay.
Right.
That did a tremendous job with this sort of operating under this basis.
But I guess it's like part of it too is I think it just required, because it does mean you need someone that knows how to 3D model.
Yeah.
With this, which is I think is the big prohibiting factor, right? It's like, because now people they just go straight into 3D, but kind of going with the retro aesthetic tends to be not necessarily lack of art skills, but certainly to like save on that. And it seems like, I don't know, maybe that's just me. That's just from what I've seen. What I'm saying is just there's not a lot of games that look like this now, which I think is awesome.
Thank you. So what happened was this sort of route for doing art for games died out once 3D modeling like came into its own, right? I mean, we jumped into the N64 era where, you know, and like Quake, and that, I mean, then like everyone followed suit, right? If you weren't making a 3D game, you were old guard and you were wasting your time.
Right. Well,
and as a result, there's a lot of interesting. Come again?
I was just gonna say, Brigador 2 is gonna be a first-person shooter.
Yeah, if we follow suit, or there's a couple different ways it could go. But yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of stuff both from a gameplay standpoint, but I think also from an art style that weren't explored. Yeah, and then I mean, like, we tried to do that. So, for example, like we have the lighting in the game. Is this sort of kind of spitballed lighting setup. We use the Z-depth from the models as I rented out. So everything you see in the game has both a sprite sheet for how it, like the actual color and like the shape of the thing itself, and then a secondary sprite sheet that has all the depth information.
Oh, I see. Because you can get that from 3D.
Yes, right, so and that's what allowed. I mean, they just look like big gray sheets with the outline.
That's what I'm using to get the edge detection in my game. Using the depth info. So that's cool. So you guys are using that for.
We use that for depth sorting. We use that to handle the lighting. So like you'll notice if you drive behind stuff, a little outline of your vehicle will appear. You are totally torching yourself.
I know. I was like, why am I so low? I thought I've been doing well, and then I realized it was all the fire, which I think is also. Oh man, I love that it follows the arc. Oh, I see. That's why with the high arcs one, it can be so difficult when you're moving. But yeah, you're saying so you got the outline, and that you're doing the depth info. That's actually, isn't that pretty expensive from a rendering standpoint? I think because I think it means you're rendering everything twice.
Yeah, so it essentially doubled our sprite cost.
Right. Oh, so with every character you end up rendering its what it looks like, all its different rotation versions. For everything, it's a depth texture, and then it's the like outline version.
So there's the depth, and then there's the color. Something you can actually do. So if just start the game again, just with anything, okay. And then we can actually show some of this. So just pause the game, and just hit P, and then hit F1.
Yep.
So hit F1, and then go to the rendering tab. So rendering
I'm
control.
so jealous of this setup.
So you have to click and drag the bottom right corner of the tab to open up the screen.
Oh, I see. There we go.
No, of the overall thing.
Like click and drag it to here?
No. So there's the debug panel. It has the purple taskbar, and then at the bottom right, just below Profiler, there's a little gray.
Oh, I see.
At the right side, there's a little gray triangle.
Ah, got it. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. So go to rendering mode.
Yep.
And then you can change it to diffuse normals and materials, and you can see the different.
Oh,
so this is what the game looks like without any lighting. Those are the normals.
Wow. Right, and then it does. That's the materials.
Yes. So the materials is glossy, like how the lighting looks on the various sprites.
Like specular,
yes. Yeah, sorry, my mind was blanking on me. And then you can go to lighting and shadows.
And diffuse, that's just its normal, kind of without the lighting,
That's how the game used to look, and then we figured out we could do some fancy stuff.
It's a huge difference. Like, it feels...
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see, lighting, so...
Right. So yeah, you've got directional shadows and the point shadows. So these are smaller elements to it.
Oh, I see. That's directional. That's shadow point. I see that stuff. That's like
it's self-shadowing stuff.
Oh, I see. Oh, self-shadow because it's a light.
Yeah, and then right-click on assets, data, weather, lighting.
Right-click on assets.
Just right in lighting above gamma compensation.
Above gamma. Oh, I see.
Yeah, so right-click on that, or left-click.
Okay.
And then just fiddle with those sliders.
Oh wow. And this is you or Jack that does that kind of handles the way the level looks.
Jack and I both kind of collaborated on that.
Okay.
And then Harry was the one who made all the magic happen. So a lot of this stuff was his idea, and he's the one who did all the hard work to figure out how to actually do it.
Wow.
Yeah. So
this is amazing.
we take all the credit for it just because we're the art people and we actually build other levels. But in reality, like the game wouldn't look nearly as good without that kind of input.
Yeah, like you this is almost. It's amazing that you guys have these tools. That's like one thing that I think is so important is. Yeah, you know, like all of a sudden this is like LA, you know, it went from like South American country to like LA at noon time.
I mean, both having control of the lighting, but also being able to live edit this kind of stuff makes such an extraordinary difference.
And are you guys able? Is this like the same as the? You know, you guys are able to like you play around and you're like, hey, I like this, and then you can save it for that.
So you can see right there.
Wow.
It changes to.
Wow.
So, yeah, that was actually a fairly recent change, as of a couple months ago. Originally, all of this stuff was text files.
I'm a Brigador level designer.
Well, that's actually what we're hoping is that, because at least in the general scheme of kind of modding, or not necessarily modding, but like building custom content, our pipeline, admittedly, it's idiosyncratic, but I don't think it's nearly as complicated as most games. So as far as like something to get into, I mean, like I remember fiddling with StarCraft 1 and the editor and building maps and stuff, and I think we're around that level of complexity.
Yeah.
So
I also think your UI for all those debug stuff are fantastic. By the way, they look
that's
they
all Omar
fit into the game.
Yeah. So I am GUI. Am I pronouncing that right? It's so Omar, he works at Media Molecule, and he built up this whole library himself, and it's phenomenal. So we've been extremely lucky in that we found kind of help from people who were doing their own thing, and it was just the right thing at the right time to allow us to jump forward. Because if we didn't have access to that, I mean, without IMGUI, it takes us much longer in order to get all this like live editing stuff in a easy and workable manner into the game. And as you know, like having good tools is the entire like if you don't have good tools, you're not going to make a good game.
Yeah, and like that's something I'm sort of learning now. Especially, well, like I think for me, I was at a phase where for the first 2 years I was just prototyping, but then it's like when you finally know the game you want to make. Yeah.
When you get down to brass
tacks. Go from that stage, then you really need tools. And Chris7001 is sort of, he says, here's a bit of jelly how easy it is to change the settings in this game, and it is because like I'm using a lot of like these weird Unity hacks, and it's just it's like super tedious for me to do. And you know, I do have it set up where I can have the MIDI controller, but right now I don't have like a good library to hook that up, so it is. You know, it takes me like 2 days to set up the MIDI controller to work with some value that I want to tweak. And so just to see how easy that was, this feels like a totally different level. And it looks gorgeous. Like, I'm just like, yeah.
Like so to answer Kilmer, so within this game we use, so IMGUI is what allows us, is like when you hit F1, all that stuff is IMGUI. And then we use Tiled, which is the map editor, which is Thorbjorn. I'm of course butchering his name because I'm a.
Is that like an open source thing?
Yeah, it's a map editor it's also phenomenal. We ended up kind of poking around in the guts of it to make it plug in nicely with Brigador, right. But that's what allows us to build up all of this stuff. Yeah, I mean, it took us a while to get everything plugged in nice, and there's still some hinky bits, but it really does just, like I said, I mean, 50 hours to make a finished map is nothing compared to what you normally get in most cases.
And how many maps are there in the game?
Currently, there's only about 3 maps that pass muster right now, and we have 3 more that are kind of early drafts of maps. That's been one of the issues, is that I've been kind of behind in my duties as designer and like both designer on the game and on levels, just because there's been so many other things with running the business, promoting the game, getting all this PAX shenanigans set up. So,
by the way, yeah, if anybody is going to be at PAX Prime, Brigador is going to be in the PAX Indie mini booth. And the you guys are so I know you said there are going to be like, is there going to be a level editor that
So our plans are to maybe not necessarily immediately with early access, but at some point we definitely want to release all the tools that we use to make the maps.
Yeah.
And I would, as soon as I get time, I'd like to also do proper tutorials to that extent, because I mean that's the thing that, I mean, if we actually are fortunate enough to build up a community of people who want to build these kinds of maps and stuff, I mean that's kind of the lifeblood of a game. That's just how you can get that kind of life after release.
I just feel, and I feel like this lends itself really well to it. This is the kind of game that would be awesome. So, Gaustric's saying that I can do some kind of
oh yeah, the visual presets. Yeah. So if you hit F1 again.
Once I go in.
Oh yeah. You can do that stuff in the menu outside of it.
Oh, but, I see.
Yeah, just hit P to pause the game. Hit F1.
Where was the
and then go to pack file.
Pack file.
And then search lighting underneath all.
What is this tool? This is amazing.
And then just click a bunch of those.
Oh, these are all ones that you guys have decided look awesome.
Yeah.
There's so many. I love just how different things look. This is like...
So the yellow file means...
Sunset. You gotta have like awesome names that are just based Nights. On locations, right?
Yeah.
LA Noon, Tokyo Midnight. This is like Tokyo Midnight, I think.
Yeah. So then... click on the data editor, and all the files that you've clicked that are now highlighted yellow, when you go to the data editor, that allows you to individually edit each of those files.
Oh, I see. So you can edit your presets inside here.
Mm-hmm. And then you can discard changes or whatever. But with like that editor, you can live edit weapons, like how many bullets a cannon fires, ammo, your vehicle movement speed, like pretty much everything that's pertinent to gameplay is editable in the game.
Honestly, I feel like, all I'd want to do is just like tweak lighting and post. I just,
post screenshots.
Like, post screenshots on Twitter, like. Yeah, no, because this is actually one of the things that I like to add to my game too. This ability to sort of open up some of these design processes to the player and let them tweak some of the stuff.
Yeah.
These are on the left. These are the different lights from the pack file.
So those are different files that are currently loaded into the pack file.
I see.
And then when you click them, that you're activating that weather system.
Right.
But then also it makes it available for you to tweak the individual components of it.
Speaking of weather, are you guys thinking of having like rain?
That's one of those things where it's like we'd love to, but there's so many other things on the plate right now that like it's another, if we make sure we've got a good game and it sells well and it's like we're looking at April, May, then it's like, okay, maybe we can start fiddling with Brigador Rain DLC.
Right. I'm on top of that. I love Rain, and but yeah, no, I think you're right, and.
Oh, stepping through. Yeah. Also, Willie, if you hit P to pause again, if you hit right on the arrow keys, that steps the game forward one frame. So that's how we do a lot of our screenshots, is you get close.
What?
And then just step forward one frame at a time.
Wow, it's like a slow motion thing.
And then if you turn on dev mode, if you hit F1, and then in the main setting, there's just go to main at the very left.
Main on the very left.
Yes. Turn on dev mode.
Yep.
And then hit F1 again. Now, if you hit Q, you'll teleport to your cursor. And then also hitting tab will zoom out and show the full map.
What? This is incredible. This looks beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
Love this. Are there any places in the game where you might see this? Maybe after a level is done, getting a whole view of the map.
So what we're talking about right now is when you're selecting a map, you'll get like when you're in the menu and you're picking what level to load, we'll show you something like this, probably in that like red blueprint schematic style that fits with the rest of the UI. We've gone back and forth over the last year as to whether to have that function available to the player to see the full map or not, because it's one of the things like how much information do you want to have available to the player.
And it's like even if you make it small, where you're just like, oh, it's so awkward, people won't do it. I think people still do it. You know what I mean? Like a
lot of people have been asking to actually be able to zoom in from here to get just sort of beauty shots of some of the sprites and things. All those pipes are exposed. If you want to just fiddle around with this, you can just turn on God mode, and then you can just
raffle stomp through everything. Or infinite ammo.
God props makes the props themselves indestructible, and then player. God mode just player. Yeah, there you go. So now you can infinite ammo and just have some fun.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of just really blown away by both. Holy cow.
Oh, yeah. So when I originally built that map, those pipes were an explosive. So, and I haven't quite gotten around to
I kind of love that this whole thing just got obliterated. And how are you guys finding Champagne? I'm like, why? Like, I'm always, I love that there's so much great stuff. I think the indie narrative, not that there really is one, but a lot of people tend to focus on these big scenes like New York, LA, Seattle, and certainly Jack is there, but you know, I think there's so much stuff going on. You know, I think Chicago is even a small scene, but Champagne, even smaller. Yeah, I mean, there's just like great stuff being made that I think doesn't get the attention it deserves.
But Volition's going to be having us over after PAX, like once, because they're in the middle of a crunch right now. They've got a major milestone they're working on, and we obviously have PAX. But afterwards, we're gonna host each other in our respective studios. I think they'll be impressed by our working arrangements. But yeah, I mean, the big thing is just that, I mean, New York's cool, but especially like unless you've like really made it as an indie, or if you've got a bunch of money stashed up somewhere before you begin development. I mean, the cost of living
I just don't think of those places as like
or anything else.
I don't think that's a place that's necessarily conducive to being creative. Like, I think it's like people succeed and then they go there to like, because that's where everyone goes. But to get your inspiration, I think you're much better being somewhere else. You know, it's like in the art scene when people tell me they're Brooklyn-based artists, I'm like, that like means nothing. Whereas I think if you're like a Chicago-based artist, that I think there's a lot more about your work. You know, like that means something to me. Where the location is actually incorporated into the work, maybe. That's how I feel.
So the clear tie-in for us is that given we're in flat Midwest, that's why there's no elevation in the map.
It turns out this is just set outside of Chicago, in like the middle of cornfields.
Jack's actually got a good point just about he mentioned in the chat.
David by me. Bernie spoke about that. Actually, New York is not the kind of place I can support and nurture. Yeah, I just don't think so. You know, you need room to breathe and to like screw up. I can't imagine being in New York and just constantly trying to find space and to. God mode is not fun. It takes away all the excitement.
Yeah, I mean, so it's definitely. I mean, it hasn't been all rainbows and lollipops and champagne.
Right, no.
Just because it's been like, I think anyone who's worked on an indie project for an extended period of time knows that it can be a slog. and I think for us it was sort of a mixed blessing in that, I mean, seeing Volition next month will be the first time we've ever really interacted with them, and otherwise we've been almost completely isolated. Yeah, like I had met one of the kind of higher ups there. Went to the same high school that I did, and he knew my brother. So like I've done like a couple luncheons with people who happen to work at Volition, but as far as any kind of like cross pollination or anything, there's nothing really there. And I think a lot of that was just on my end, not reaching out until now.
Right.
But the thing for us is that it's a combination of when you're not in the middle of a strong community, you kind of are left to your own devices to figure something out. And I think that actually contributed to us ending up with our sort of batshit solution for the game that we ended up building. So it's like, I think what we ended up building would have been very different if we had been ensconced in like a very active independent community.
Yeah, the one thing I will say about this game is it feels like it has such a strong identity.
Thank you.
It's just great. Yeah, you guys can tell I'm a really big fan of the game, even though I'm not very good at it. I mean, I totally cheated with this one, right?
That's fine. No,
a bunch of
that's the thing. It is a very steep learning curve. So that's what we expect. So one of the things we're saying right now is that if anyone can beat the demo at PAX, we'll give you a free copy of the game. Fully anticipating that there are going to be very few, if any. What I'm hoping is that there'll be some guy who like both likes the game and also like really wants to have at it. And so totally fine with repeat offenders coming back and just playing the game over and over again until they actually do beat the demo, in which case, yeah, sure, we'll give you a copy. If you either like the game enough to keep coming back or are that determined, that'll probably be something you'll enjoy. But there's a lot of it's fun. And what I'm hoping is that things can take off after early access, and that we can, because right now we've got a player pool, but it's fairly small, and there's only a handful of guys who've like really gotten into the game. So as far as like, I can count on two hands the number of people that are on a level from a gameplay standpoint that is like representative of someone who's put in serious time. Right. We've got guys who've put in 30, 40, 50 hours into the game. And that's the big question, right? It's like, can you still have something that's interesting mechanically after that amount of time? I mean, you've got these guys who are playing, like Binding of Isaac, who have thousands of hours into that game. And it's not that I necessarily want to emulate Binding of Isaac as a game, but having that replayability, and I realize that's kind of a buzzword right now, but to offer enough to the player that it's a well that you can keep coming back to is something that's really important. And the question is, that's what I'm hoping with early access, is that we can start getting people, a larger group of people, really getting into the game and helping us to figure out, okay, how what needs to change, and is this game too hard, not hard enough as far as late stage, and that kind of goes into the other thing is as far as vehicle selection. There's definitely going to be vehicles and weapons that are easier and harder to play through with. Jack's talking about a lot of this stuff in the chat. The big thing is that with most games, the things you unlock towards the end of the game are the best things in the game, the best equipment, the best characters.
Right.
Which is sort of, it doesn't make sense that you're getting the thing that makes the game the easiest when you're the best at it. So the mentality that we've got going forward is, we want to give the player some of the best equipment and weapons at the very beginning of the game to help ease that learning curve. And then the kind of vehicles you unlock after 20, 30 hours of playing are like the tread bikes that we were talking about.
Yeah, which I'm super excited about. I'm a huge fan of Akira, and I just kind of wanted to like.
Oh, I mean that's a huge influence on us. If you couldn't tell. So, yeah, tread bikes, power suits, these kinds of like really specific. We also have an A-Grav that's paper thin, but is like it's the one we want for the people who just have that perfect control. So, yeah, I mean, like we've got, to give you an idea, we have 120 vehicles.
Wow, 120 vehicles. Wow.
That have been built. Yeah,
and all I saw there was like.
Right now, there's only 18 that the player can select. Now, we're not going to have all 120 be playable, but we would like to have a fairly large selection because it's we want to hit the major archetypes and then start filling in those like the gaps between them for people who like want a little more speed, a little less armor, these kinds of trade-offs, and to allow for people. So like, kind of an interesting comparison would be, if you look at Modern Warfare. Any of the Call of Duty games, they have this insane selection of guns, and a lot of them, for all intents and purposes, it doesn't make that big of a difference. One machine gun versus another, one shotgun versus another. Obviously, there are some weapons that it's like those are the cheese ones that anyone who's being super, who's trying to be very mercenary about the game, are those ones you pick. But we kind of want to apply the same thing with our vehicles and weapons, where it's like it's as much a reflection of your personality as of the gameplay itself. Right. So, factional differences between vehicles, and there's a lot of stuff there. But when you come down to brass tacks, some of these vehicles are going to be very, very similar. But people like to have favorites, and that's something that we have the art assets already built up for it, and so that it's just a fun thing to support.
Cool. Well, it's almost 10, so I think we'll wrap it up here. And I just want to make sure that people have all the info. Quit. Yeah, let's quit there. So, let me open up the. So let's see. It's Stellar Jockeys. .com.
Yep, that's our main site, and that's got our new trailer.
This is Brigador. Now, you guys also told me you guys have like that forum thread on I forget the game. What's NeoGaf?
Oh yeah, we've got a thread on the. I'll post post all of these in the chat. We've got a thread on NeoGaf. If people have Something Awful accounts, we've got a thread there.
Something Awful.
And we did have a Steam forum, but that had to be closed because originally we didn't think we were going to do early access, and we also pulled the trigger on being coming soon way, way, way too early. I'm talking like a year and a half ago. We said we were coming soon, and the thing about that is, coming soon locks you into a standard release, so it doesn't allow you to do early access. And also, it's intended to be that like you launch coming soon like a month at most before your like commercial release of the game. Right. And that's when your Steam page goes up. That's when you can start building forums, stuff, all that. For us, it was still very helpful because it allowed us to get some of the feedback and get some people who already had access to the game through Steam to start commenting within that forum. But once we realized we were going to go early access, we had to switch over. And so all that stuff's kind of bricked up until the actual early access release on October 20th.
Right.
And then people will actually be able to start commenting on stuff again and telling us how bad our game is.
Well, and then while we're on that topic of things coming out, like, when the game comes out, will their soundtrack will be released as well?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because I know when I showed people my iTunes, let's see here, my current playlist, right? This is embarrassing. I listened to the Sims 3 album a lot. That's embarrassing.
I have some very specific associations. That was my summer right after college, and
let's just stop here. But you can see it's like Fastful, and then this theme song from Brigador is 200. It's just like there are days when I just listen to that song on repeat. Like it really gets me in the zone. So I posted like this just to capture this, and then everyone was like, "Oh my god, it beat Dust Force," because that's an amazing soundtrack. And they're all like, "Where can I get this?" So
awesome! Yeah, we should. It's mostly done. There's a couple like menu theme and interstitial stuff that we need to get finished out before we actually release the soundtrack. But yeah, we're excited about it, and that's like we've been so lucky working with Makeup and Vanity Set, Matt Pusti.
Right.
I mean, Jack did a couple of the tracks for the soundtrack himself, and that was how we figured out the sound that we wanted, that kind of John Carpenter style. But we've been extremely fortunate in our collaborators. Like Pusti knocked it out of the park. And the thing is, I think some people are more excited about the soundtrack than they are about the game.
Well, you know, that's you know. If you have a great soundtrack for a great game, that's just like it's like having great wine with great food, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the hope that they live up to each other. So Pusti's definitely set a high bar. So we'll see if we can follow on that.
And you guys stream sometimes.
Yeah, I mean we've been off for about the last month, just kind of getting things figured out. I took a vacation because you need those sometimes. But yeah, just the last month has been crazy. But I think when we get back from PAX, we'll be back on the streaming bandwagon.
Cool. And that's just Stellar Jockeys.
Yeah, twitch.tv/Stellar Jockeys. And then if you want the art stuff, that's Gaussworks. I'll post both of these as well.
Very cool. So anyway, that was Brigador. Thank you, Hugh, for joining and talking about the game. Check out Brigador, follow them on Twitter, on Twitch, and if you like this channel, you should follow this one too.
Yeah.
So
everything's looking great.
Yeah, we are. There's lots of plans for that, but I'll be talking about them more later in the coming weeks. And then for those of you that are going to be at PAX Prime, make sure to check out Brigador. It will be at the mini booth all 4 days.
Yep.
Cool.
Awesome.
Well, I will talk to you later, and thanks everyone for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for hosting. This is great.
This is awesome. We should do it again when you maybe like closer to release after we've done some early access. After that's been going on, we'd love to hear how that goes.
Yeah, give you some time to practice.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking of ending the stream so I can play some more.
Perfect. That's great.
Okay.
All right, man.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah, take care, everyone. And thanks for hosting, Will.
Yeah.